You're listening to the Waypoint TV Podcast Network, brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Looking for the best deals on center consoles, sport fishing boats, pontoons, kayaks, and skiffs? The Annapolis Powerboat Show is your destination. Join us in downtown Annapolis, Maryland from October 3rd through 6th to explore over 300 boats, all displayed outdoors and in the water. This year's show has something for everyone, including free fishing seminars with industry pros, a kids fishing zone hosted by CCA Maryland, and a massive selection of gear. Plus, don't miss out on boat show exclusive discounts on sound equipment, MFDs, outboards, trolling motors, and more. Make your next great fishing adventure start at the Annapolis Powerboat Show. Get your tickets and all the details at AnnapolisBoatShows.com. That's AnnapolisBoatShows.com.
Looking for the best deals on center consoles, sport fishing boats, pontoons, kayaks, and skiffs? The Annapolis Powerboat Show is your destination. Join us in downtown Annapolis, Maryland from October 3rd through the 6th to explore over 300 boats, all displayed outdoors and in the water. This year's show has something for everyone, including free fishing seminars with the industry pros, a kids fishing zone hosted by CCA Maryland, and a massive selection of gear. Plus, don't miss out on boat show exclusive discounts on sound equipment, MFDs, outboards, trolling motors, and more. Make your next great fishing adventure start at the Annapolis Powerboat Show. Get your tickets and all the details at AnnapolisBoatShows.com. That's AnnapolisBoatShows.com.
Join Justin Townsend and the Harvesting Nature crew as they explore the world of cooking wild fish and game while sharing recipes, tips, tricks, and lessons learned from their pursuit of wild food. We sure hope you ate before the show, 'cause you're gonna leave hungry. This is the Wild Fish and Game Podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Harvesting Nature's Wild Fish and Game Podcast. You got your host here, Justin Townsend. I'm joined by the fearless bearded man in the Great White North. I'm trying to think of a very witty thing to say about you other than your awesomeness in just the general realm of food. You know, I have to say that because I was listening to you on the Okayest Cook just this morning as I was driving my kids to work. Or to school. My kids don't work. I'll clarify that. As I was driving them to school, I was listening to your, which it's funny because they've now, met you and Adam Steele so much that my daughter Zoe just casually refers to you as Canada Adam or Florida Adam, which I think is hilarious.
That's how we're known at the pig camp too. Because we're both working at the pig camp, so that's our monikers there.
So, what all did you talk about on the? Just for everyone who hasn't listened to the episode, the Okayest Cook, part of the Okayest Hunter podcast network, I guess, or the Okayest podcast network. Mm-hmm. They have a bunch of stuff going on over there. Very busy.
Yeah, they've been busy. Well, it's kind of just basically digging into foraging and how to get into foraging when you start out, and how it's not a matter of trading your clothes in for a loincloth and running through the woods. You can forage in your backyard. You can forage when you're walking your dog. You can start small, and it was just kind of about my journey foraging and how you can get into yourself. And then we kind of based the whole talk around a recipe that I made recently with hedgehog mushrooms. So it's like a seared chicken thigh in a hedgehog mushroom sauce, which is quite tasty. So everyone should go give them a listen. They're good guys over there, and I think it was a good talk. So
yeah, no, it was good. You guys did pretty awesome. Good conversation. I think we're scheduled to join them sometime in the near future. I think likely next month. I think both you and I will get on there and talk about badass wild game cooking or something. I don't know what we're going to talk about. Cooking technique, something. Yeah. We'll just get on there and have some fun. But so also too, we are joined by Heidi, one of our senior staff writers. Welcome.
Thank you.
Do you want to give kind of a brief introduction to yourself to kind of set the playing field here so so everybody knows who's on here.
Sure. So my name is Heidi Chaya. I live in Virginia. For a living, I'm a freelance writer, including for Harvesting Nature. I think it was since 2021 at this
Sounds
point.
about right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've also been working in food systems and agriculture, and I'm currently a farm operations associate at a farm near my house in Virginia, and grass-fed beef. So I have a background in food and agriculture, specifically regenerative agriculture, sustainable food, and I enjoy writing about all kinds of wild food, especially hunting and foraging and wild plants, and kind of a permaculture bent, I guess you could say.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Well, thanks for joining us today. And then we've got another episode coming up again soon where we're gonna, I think, we're only 2 episodes away in our Cooking by Cuts series. Just to close that out, I think you're planning to join us for the liver and heart episode as a fellow organ aficionado.
I have a liver and heart that I've been saving.
Sweet.
Like labeled with the deer that they came from.
Wow, that's awesome. I was digging. I'm getting to like scraping the bottom of my freezer here right now. I was just pulled some antelope steaks out to make for dinner tonight for the kids before I came up, and I think I still have wild pork liver, some kidneys. I've got some goose gizzards from our last goose camp still hanging around in there. I've got probably 8 packs of either antelope, mule deer ribs, or a mix thereof in the bottom of the freezer with some stock bones. And then I've got some other wobbly bits that I am trying to figure out what exactly are. But my projection is by the end of next month, I will be freezer empty unless I take a deer in the next few weeks, which I'm hoping so. Archery season's open here in Maryland. I'm debating going out tomorrow, but I'm for sure I have it booked on my calendar to go out Saturday. I've got a spot that's just probably like 45 minutes from my house that I've been checking out with Colin Gruen. If you guys remember him from long ago in the podcast, a couple years now. He was a regular rotating personality that came through. He was our social media manager for a while, or community manager for a while, and he's here in DC, so he and I have got some future hunting plans together, which involve hopefully shooting some white-tailed deer. Very excited about that in the immediate future. But until then, I will continue to nibble away at the wobbly bits at the bottom of my freezer.
So on the topic of wobbly bits, I found myself with just too many after... I haven't made very many recipes lately with them. They've been kind of being pushed aside. I had been given a ton of livers and whatnot from well-meaning neighbors and other hunters and friends until I developed like a just too many to get through. Like I like liver, but not enough to eat it every day to get through all this. So I ended up dehydrating it into dog treats.
Oh,
a lot of it. So my dog has just been scratching at the cupboard where we keep him because she just loves him more than any other treat we've ever given her. So
that's awesome.
Super happy with that.
Mine the same. I've been doing anytime I trim like silver skin or anything off. I was doing a roast or something the other day. And trimmed a bunch of silver skin off and I just threw it in the dehydrator for my dog, and he's been crushing them. And then I made stock the other day from a bunch of mule deer bones that I had, and I picked all the meat off the bones and I put them aside in like a little container, and then each time we'd feed him, we'd give him like a little handful of the meat on top of his food. Dude doesn't know the high quality protein he's getting.
Lucky dog.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Other than that, I'm going out duck hunting. We have duck opener here on Saturday, or in a couple days. So I'm super excited about that, to get out for ducks. My buddy has a little blind in a kind of swampy pond, so we're gonna see how that goes. Really looking forward to that. And then I've got a bunch of butchering to do, some contracts. So yeah, I'm gonna be, now my busy season has started officially this weekend, I think. So
nice.
Yeah.
It's good. Being busy is good.
Yeah.
How about you, Heidi? Any plans? Any recent adventures? Anything?
Well, I accepted a full-time position at my job at the farm, and with that comes hunting privileges on the property.
Ooh.
Oh,
So,
that's a cool perk.
They have any other openings?
I don't think so right now. But I've been working really hard practicing with my crossbow, which is totally new to me, and it's my first any kind of bow-related hunting weapon. So I've been working on that, and not super bare bones in my freezer. I just have like things I've been putting off, like you said, like bones. I've got a lot of bones. I've got hides that I'd like to learn how to tan, but probably my most exciting project lately that's really been helpful is I've been making pemmican.
Ooh.
Cool.
So really good use of like neck and shoulder and like kind of not so like beautiful looking parts. I don't know. Like I find it hard to cut like a shoulder into nice steaks sometimes, and you can just grind it all. I've been making pemmican and mixing it with the beef tallow from my job, and I'm on a super low carb diet. I'm in like a research study for it and everything, and this stuff's been keeping me going. So always trying to find new ways to stretch and use the meat. It's like my art medium these days.
That's such a great thing. It's my art medium. I love it. No, that's cool. I'm a big fan of pemmican. I think you get like some folks get very hardcore about their pemmican recipes, and some are like more casual and consumable. Which I don't know. I've tried my hand at them before. I'm kind of like middle of the lane of like I like something that's both functional but also super tasty, and then I've made some that I've like aren't super tasty but I know they're really good for you, and it always makes me think back to like some of the original like probably pemmican recipes, like the evolution of pemmican in Native American culture and cuisine. Like one, like how did it come about that somebody was like, look, if we take this dried meat, if we take some fat, if we take some berries and some other stuff, and we put it all together and we mash it up really tight, and then we carry it with us, it'll just like help sustain us. And then, you know, the landscape of the plains where it kind of originates is very interesting as far as like the wild forageables there that can contribute to it, like the choke cherries and all the different berries and stuff like that. So really, really cool product that I think it uniquely kind of like an American thing.
American Canadian, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sorry,
North
American.
America, yeah.
American is the continent.
Okay, yeah.
I guess I don't know.
I guess it was pre-American.
Yeah, I was gonna say pre-American,
yeah.
pre-Columbian.
Yeah.
Any cuts you're looking forward to like cooking here very soon, Heidi?
Well, if I am so fortunate to get a deer tomorrow, actually, I'm going out for the first time this season with the crossbow. Just miss steaks, tenderloins, backstrap, things like that. I'm trying to think if there's anything new. I'm not really great. Like, I haven't really done any curing yet, but I'd love to do some kind of cured. I've done like a ham before, but like get into like that funky, like aging, like really extensive dry aging kind of stuff, I guess. Excited about that.
Nice. It'll be good. Good to have some resources on hand to do that with, I think. All right. Well, so today kind of we wanted to go some different directions than normal. We're not going to do one of our normal Cooking by Cut series. We're going to do more of a crew chat, as you can imagine at this point by listening to us just kind of ramble on. We are going to talk about, I think, some of the craziest, wildest, most unusual things we've eaten, food things, and we'll just let it range at that, and we'll kind of walk through them slowly and I don't know, just discuss and see where the evening goes. This is fairly unscripted. A lot of our podcasts, we kind of have a lot of good fancy talking points and go in depth into detail, and this one is more off the cuff. One thing though that I want to mention is that our good buddy Ken, who we've went from a person joining us at a camp to a person joining us multiple times at the camp to now part of the crew. Awesome dude. And he has brought to us this great concept of having a new podcast series, which we've all got behind and we're ready for it. I think, Heidi, you talked on one of the episodes.
I did.
Yep. It's awesome. So, and Adam, you were sort of the test run for it. I don't know if your episode's going to be featured or not.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's a pilot, so we'll see if it comes.
We'll see. But
you've all heard me enough, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yes. So Ken's idea for a podcast series, which is great. We love it. And I think, too, it falls very much in line with a lot of what we do as far as, like, creating a space where people can learn, where they can get comfortable, where they can just feel really welcome in the community that is Harvesting Nature, to, hunt, fish, forage for food, learn how to do with it, learn how to do things with it once you have it, and just kind of like share your experiences for the greater good. That doesn't sound too cultish, but so Ken brought to us this idea of the Rookies. And that's the name of the podcast series that we're going to go with. And I will turn it over to Ken to share his intro to the Rookies podcast. Over to you, Ken.
Hey, y'all. My name's Ken Chapman. I'm a newbie hunter, poor angler, wannabe forager, amateur cook, and full-time eater on an adventure to know where my food comes from and have some good meals with great friends along the way. I've learned a lot from the Wild Fish and Game podcast and got to meet some amazing folks in the Harvesting Nature community. And that's kind of how I got this wild-eyed idea for a new podcast series. Just talking with other newbies, whether it's first-time anglers, adult onset hunters, or newbie foragers. All these folks had passion for good eats and wild food adventures that were inspiring, instructive, and sometimes filled with more comedic bad luck than you can shake a stick at. Long story short, rookies have some great stories to tell. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to let rookies tell their stories about what motivated them, how they learned new skills in the field and in the kitchen, and what keeps them coming back for more. If you're new to harvesting, cooking, and eating wild food, or yet to take the plunge, then this podcast series is for you. And if you've been around the block more times than you care to count, you might just hear something that makes you fall in love all over again. So come on out, listen to the rookies. We'll see you on down the road. Thanks.
Thanks, Ken, for sharing that. We're all looking forward to hearing some of those episodes as they roll out and getting to see sort of people's journey through getting into hunting, fishing, foraging, and just their overall wild food experience. I think it's going to be really, really awesome, and I'm excited to tune in and listen to the episodes as they roll out. I think we're shooting for one a month now, and also too, we could play the sad song of taps in the background. But Adam, what's the news I'm going to share?
Oh, about antler and fin?
Yeah.
Yeah, looks like I've decided as well to to sunset antler and fin, and we're gonna try something new. So I guess it will be replaced partially by Ken's rookie podcast, and then Justin and I are working on something new as well for to come out in probably October, November.
Yeah, November. I think we'll kick off a new series.
Yeah,
and then also. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, so it's going to be some changes, but they're good changes. And thanks for everyone for listening to the Antler Print. It was a really fun project, and I'm sure I'll do something similar in the future too, so it won't be the absolute end. But yeah, I'm looking forward to some new fun changes coming up on the horizon.
Yeah, no, and I think it'll be great. It will be good. We're gonna wrap up, like I said, 2 episodes of the Cooking by Cut series. That'll be done. We're launching the rookies. We'll still continue to have awesome guests. I have a great lineup of guests coming up to close out this year. We're trying to get some even bigger, badder, bolder, more beautiful names and folks to come chat with us. And then we're branching out too, I think, a little bit beyond the wild game community too, to discuss just some other things and stuff that can help you as a wild food connoisseur. So yeah, there's that. But so now come back around after just a few minutes of rambling from me to our sort of topic today. So what are the craziest, wildest, unusual foods you have eaten, and you being us, we're going to kind of share and talk about those and what they were, the motivations behind them, what they tasted like, what the experience was, who condescended to tasting this odd wobbly bit, and then just how in general it was. But before we get there, I do want to give like one very crucial disclaimer. I feel like I use those terms, craziest, wildest, most unusual, like very loosely. And I use that on purpose just for the fact that those terms, especially I think when you're thinking food, experience, art, whatever, fall very centric culturally and are really relative to whatever culture that you're from. So what is odd or exciting or mundane for me may not be for someone else. And I think that's okay. But we're just going to use those terms as sort of for our own personal experiences, and don't really want to encroach on anyone else and try to insinuate that the food you eat is weird, because I don't think that it is. It's just different to us. And maybe not different in a bad way, just different in general. You know, I grew up, and my best friend's parents, we'd go over to their house and we would eat frequently. I'm a big grilled cheese guy. They put mayonnaise on their grilled cheese on the inside of it. And
heathens.
That was different to me. But you know what? I ate it, and it was good. And, here we are. We're still alive, and we're still friends years later, despite mayonnaise and grilled cheeses. So, I don't know. We'll kick it off in the category of wild game. We'll just kind of like toss it out there. So if you have something that you think fits the bill, just kick it out. No, there's no round robin. We're just going to go for it. So
I can go first if you want.
Yeah. I'm going to kick it over to you, Adam.
Sure. Yeah. So I had a great experience in the past visiting South Africa twice. So my brother-in-law is from South Africa, and my partner's sister was living there with him, so we went and visited them twice, which was just incredible. But being there, I got to try a lot of wild game that is only found in Africa. And you can go to certain restaurants, and you can also buy some of it in the parks, and it's just legally sold there. And sustainably sold by the parks themselves, like Kruger National Park. So I wasn't like shooting elephants and cooking them up in the back areas or anything. So I got to try out a bunch of different wild game that seemed crazy to me because it's so far outside of my just how I was raised here. So being raised in Canada, you often will get to try venison and duck and moose or whatever, but out there I got to try crocodile and ostrich and warthog and a lot of the different deer they have there, like the different types of like impala and waterbuck and stuff like that. One of the experiences was in a really cool kind of traditional restaurant where they serve a lot of these styles of dishes, and I also got to try some like crazy fermented beer and like this weird wooden bowl, and I got to try mopani worms.
Wait. All right, go back to the worms.
Yeah. So mopani worms, they're like a kind of semi-famous worm that's often eaten down there. I think it's one of those things that old people probably enjoy, and the young find them icky still, even in South Africa. I've heard that the way I had them, they were kind of dried and then fried, like stir-fried maybe, and they were kind of reminding me of jerky a little bit. The texture wasn't too bad. I enjoyed them, but I've heard from other people that eating them when they're not dry, they could be pretty like, what's the word? Like when you crunch into them, they explode in your mouth a little bit, which I think might not be cool. Heidi's shaking her head no.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
I'm good on that. Oh, that's a hard pass for me.
Yeah. But the way I had them, they were like kind of like flat and dried, so it was more just like jerky is the closest thing, like a little piece of jerky or something, and the taste was fine. So I got to try all sorts of stuff there. It was really, really tasty and cooked up nicely. And then I did a bunch of camping through Kruger, the huge national park there. It's like the size of Belgium or something. It's insane. I recommend everyone go if you ever have the possibility to do so. but they're from the park stores. You know, when you go camping, there's a park store. You can buy like maybe ice cream and tent pegs and candles and whatnot.
T-shirts and magnets and
yeah, you can buy like warthog meat and like waterbuck steaks and all these things, and then instead of barbecue in South Africa, they have the braai. So it's just like their style of barbecuing. It's usually grilling over an open fire or charcoal fire. So we just had, so every campsite there has like a kind of braai spots with like a barbecue set up. So we just bought a bunch of steaks and stuff and grilled them up and tried all the different animals, and tried like warthog summer sausage and different pepperettes and jerkies. And so that was like, just in terms of trying something new and exciting and crazy, I never expected to be able to knock off all those animals off my to eat list without spending tens of thousands of dollars to go hunting in Africa, which isn't really my bag. It's cool if it is yours, but for me, I was just content to hike through there and walk and drive and then try it on the side. It was really cool. So I got to try all sorts of interesting, cool flavors. It was neat.
No, that's awesome. Yeah. I was thinking, we're on the topic of wild game, and originally, naturally, what kind of comes to mind is the spread that we do the first night at pig camp. And I think of the highlight there, I'm just going to go there. I'm going to rip the Band-Aid off and just say, the wild pig testicles are probably one of the most, wildest wild game things I've tried. Growing up in Oklahoma, it's pretty common to eat domestic. You call them calf fries or whatever. But from a wild, yeah. But from a wild game perspective, I don't know. I think that was the first time that I'd ever we're gonna keep and cook this off a wild pig, which is funny because it's no different off a domestic animal. Really, when you come down to it, probably same. But I think, too, it's interesting to watch people's perception that sort of first night. And we do it on purpose, right? It level sets everyone to say, hey, you're going to come here and just have an open mind and just be ready to just, taste and nibble anything we throw at you. And, I don't know, Adam, what all do we put on the spread?
Oh, a little bit of everything. We do, liver pates and head rillettes, which we talked about a lot. Done deviled kidneys and the stir fried pork testicles. I'm trying to think what else. We just do kind of everything. Everything you
said the rillettes, right?
Yeah, the head rillettes.
We've done tongue.
We do tongue.
Sushi.
Sushi.
Done before.
Yeah. I think I did up the. I'll have to look up. There's another organ that we do sometimes.
Do we do the heart?
Spleen. The spleen. Yeah, we do the heart. Yeah.
Heart, spleen. Spleen is also you talk about people uncomfortable about eating an organ. Yeah. Spleen is
just sounds like you're getting ready to vomit already or something.
Yeah.
Spleen. It just doesn't sound like a good cut of meat.
Like a comic book sound effect written out.
Yeah. I'm trying to think as far as wild game writ large. If we're talking about, are we talking about parts or dishes? Or are we talking about species?
Just any and all that I would think.
I think nutria is a big one too. If you think about in Louisiana, they have nutria, which are large water rats. I don't know, they brought them in the middle end of the century to kind of help with, I think, the snake population, and they went crazy. Now they're everywhere, all over Louisiana.
How many times has that story been told?
I don't know, probably a lot. It's probably
waiting for someone to learn the lesson from it.
Yeah, right. We brought this thing in to control this other thing, and then all of a sudden, boom, it went crazy. So, yeah, that was. I mean, that's I think the fact that it's very close to rat or hamster. I tell you, I'll save this for I've got one. Remind me. Just say travels in Peru afterwards, and I'll talk about that in our travel section, because that's not really a wild game, but very similar. I don't know, man. As far as I think BHA Rendezvous, they've got a cooking contest there, and the cool thing about the cooking contest is you get to after they've cooked and presented their dishes, you kind of like roll around and just kind of sample whatever. And the Alaska chapter, the very first year, would have been 3 years ago, I think, or maybe 4 years ago, that Adam Steele and I competed in it. We competed against Heather from Heather's Choice in the Alaska chapter, and they had, I think, 8 different types of meat. Their dish was just like, here's a meat dish, and it was like wolf and caribou and moose and bear and like all these other things. And so afterwards they had a bunch of excess, of course, and then everybody got kind of a chance to taste and try and sample. And I think like the wolf was an interesting. It's always like we spent that whole episode, a couple episodes, or the episode before this, just kind of like thinking through and discussing what it's like kind of eating predators. And I think once you get that notion over your head of like you're eating this thing, it just becomes like a different tasting meat. And I think that's where I was. Obviously, like as discussed in our last episode, mountain lion and bobcat are 2 very unusual and unconventional things to eat. But they were tasty. I don't know, Heidi. Where do you stand on unique wild game tastings?
Well, the only time I ever ate any kind of predator was when I was first learning how to hunt, which is in Vermont. And I went to a Learn to Hunt Spring Turkeys like weekend-long workshop that was coupled with Hunter Ed in-person class and the tests and the field day and everything. And they had like a kind of a buffet style thing. And I was like, wow, here's my chance to try this stuff. So I made a sandwich. It was bear, goose, ramps, and fiddleheads. And I was like, this is the wildest thing that I've eaten, literally. So much wild stuff. But I really enjoyed the bear. Don't know if I'm at the point where I could hunt bears, but I did enjoy it. I would eat it again. The goose was also great. Just kind of tasted like steak to me, which was really surprising.
Mm-hmm.
And before that, I guess my first foray into like a unique wild meat was actually when I lived in Australia, and I wasn't there super long. It was just under a year, and I started buying kangaroo to cook, and I thought it was really good, and it reminded me of the back then limited times that I'd had venison. But it was just funny, you were talking about cultural differences. I was like, hey, there's too many kangaroos here. They kind of remind me of like deer, like they're overpopulated and stuff. But my Australian friends were horrified. They were like, mate, that would be like if you ate a bald eagle. And I was like, it's a little bit different ecologically with the bald eagle there. But I don't know, I just liked it. I've always liked different kinds of meat.
Mm-hmm.
And then starting hunting, I didn't grow up hunting, so it was a little unusual that to my family that I decided to cook the groundhog. That was my first animal that I ever harvested.
Nice.
Other than a fish. That was
how does a groundhog taste?
To me, it was kind of like rabbit, but more like I braised the whole thing, so it was kind of like a pulled beef, but like milder.
Sure. Yeah.
I always tell people that ask me, I killed it in April, so it was very lean, and it kind of got dry. So I would say like add fat or like baste it or make sure it doesn't dry out if you do it. And then in terms of cuts, probably the most out of the ordinary for me is I have had deer testicles.
Yes.
My first buck that I shot, I was like, it just didn't seem right to just throw it away because it was different.
Mm-hmm.
And I had heard about like Rocky Mountain oysters and things, so I was like, well, why not try them and fried them up? And it didn't really have much of a taste. It was just really like kind of tender. It was almost like sweetbreads. It was like sweetbreads.
Yeah, that's what I would say too.
Yeah, and like I don't know if I really prepared it right. I'm not great at frying stuff. I would do it again, and I would feel like if I like had a few to work with, it's just something nice to have with beer. I don't know. Yeah. I didn't really. It wasn't like something like liver where it has a very memorable, like mature kind of flavor. But that was good, and I do enjoy heart and the liver. I'm trying to think. Other than the testicles on the deer, I think it's probably the most unusual thing that I've had for me personally.
I think that's a good lesson in all these things we're talking about is that however horrifying eating testicles sounds to some people, and even for me, it was like the first time I tried it, I was a little more trepidatious than I like to admit. And then once again, like you said, trying the wild one, for some reason that added, because I had already tried testicles a couple times and cooked them and everything, and then trying the wild ones was once again a small amount of trepidation. Never enough to hold me back, but enough to kind of give me like, whoa, this is a little different. And in all cases, it was just fine. Like, the flavor wasn't wild, it wasn't crazy, it wasn't disgusting, it was just pretty mild and nice. That's obviously not always going to be the case when you're trying something new, but often it's not nearly as scary as you thought it would be, you know?
I think, too, like the preparation, like the Rocky Mountain oysters, that was like probably one of the most common that we made with like beef testicles growing up. And to me, it always tasted like a slightly different version of like fried shrimp if you like dipped it in cocktail sauce. Like, just the consistency was the same, and like you had this breading on it, and you just kind of like dipped it in cocktail sauce, and you're like, oh, these are like, you know, thin little like chips of pounded out shrimp or something. I don't know. That's kind of like where my mind landed. And it's funny because that's how I describe it. Because we go, I'll take people out, and if I see it on the menu, I'll get it because I like it, and then I'm like encourage people to try it. And generally people like take a nibble, and they're like, no thanks. But I'm like, just think of it like shrimp cocktail, just with fried shrimp, and that's it.
Shrimp are almost grosser when you think harder about it.
Yes. But it literally also goes back to the concept that you can fry anything,
yeah,
and it will taste okay.
Just fine. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, Adam, any other wild game things cross your mind?
There's a couple. Two more that we've talked about before that happened at the pig camp were the coyote.
Oh, yeah.
Which, yeah, it was just fine. It wasn't delicious, but it was good.
I think skinning it and like was the biggest
hard
challenge.
Part,
yeah.
Yeah, it would stink, and then once you got the meat separate from the carcass, it didn't stink at all anymore. So that was a good. I think if the meat stank like the carcass did, I might not have cooked it. But it smelled just like normal fresh meat. And then when I cooked it up, it was tasty. It was fine. There's nothing gross about it. Nothing weird. I think the weirdest part was seeing the coyote skinned, just because my affinity for dogs. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like I had to do some mental hurdles to get over it. But the meat itself, I've never balked. Like, I think the only thing I'd balk at eating is something that's like super endangered or something that was put on my plate.
Tiger's out.
Yeah, something like tiger. I don't know. Or like,
would you eat a monkey?
Nah, maybe in a situation, but not.
Yeah.
I wouldn't ever search it out. Same with something like whale or something. If I happened to be the guest at an Inuit table and they were serving it, I wouldn't hesitate to eat it, but I wouldn't go searching it myself, really. So I think that's the case for most things. Another one at the big camp we had was, and I know you had it once before too, was rattlesnake.
Oh yeah, I like rattlesnake.
That was a cool, yeah.
Rattlesnake's good. We have a good rattlesnake recipe. If you're interested in rattlesnakes, there's a good rattlesnake recipe on Harvesting Nature. And actually, I don't know if I ever told you this. I caught so much flack. So that same recipe and like the story associated with it went out in a published version of the San Diego Reader.
Oh really?
In San Diego, California. And it went out on a print version and a web version. And the web version, like, people just got wild in the comments. Like, it was very interesting. People were appalled at the fact that I would eat rattlesnake. And then, like, some of my perceptions of, like, general, like, playfulism, I introduced in, the article of, like, the thought that a rattlesnake was looking at me and I was looking at it. And that rattlesnake's like, I'm going to come bite you. And I'm like, no, you're not. And then I shot it. That's kind of like where we ended up. Those emotions naturally weren't there, but I put that in the story, and people were like, "Wow, how do you ever think that the rattlesnake is going to come bite you? Like, he's purposely seeking you out." And I was like, "Yeah, probably not," but also too, like
That's a reality that people in San Diego don't have to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, depending on where you are. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
stepping on rattlesnakes.
Yeah, but
A couple other up here. I've had beaver and muskrat, which is crazy to some people and not others.
Beaver's phenomenal.
Yeah, beaver's amazing. Muskrat's not. I wouldn't say it's amazing, but it's really tasty too. Definitely worth eating.
Probably on par with like nutria, I would imagine. I would imagine all of them very much the same.
If they're like ditch and swamp dwelling or waterway dwelling vegetation eaters, they're probably going to taste somewhat similar. Mm-hmm. But the beaver came to me in a weird way, which I think is something that's joked about a lot in the non-wild food eating world, but it was roadkill. And that's kind of a crazy thing to eat for some people too.
Oh yeah, I would think actually, roadkill.
You know, so I was driving to town from my place, and it's about a 20-minute drive. It was cool, crisp morning, so it wasn't like stinking hot or anything. And it's about a 20-minute drive to town. Did an errand, like grocery shop or whatever. Came back, and there was a beaver on the road, so I knew it had only been there half hour tops. And I stopped and got out of the car to look at it. And someone had just driven over his head. So its whole body was fully intact. No smell, no mess or anything. So I just hucked it into my trunk, brought it home, and skinned it. And delicious meat. Like, I made this incredible sandwich out of it, which I think is the recipe's on Harvest Nature. And I did a few other things with it. And I still have a little bit of the meat left in my freezer that I want to play with. And like Heidi, I also have the pelt in my freezer waiting for me to get around to learning how to do pelts. It's been there for a while now, so I don't know. But that's like roadkill. I wouldn't hesitate to eat if it's like if I just use my senses to see if it's still okay to eat. I wouldn't hesitate. And some people have a really nasty vision of what that would be, and it grosses them out. But they've obviously never been in the factory farm that produces their lunch meat, because I've been in those farms, and I can tell you that pickup roadkill is much less gross than going into one of those places. So yeah, it's crazy to some, but for me, it was definitely the right choice.
Yeah, I think the roadkill. I've done it once or twice. I know once somebody messaged me and they're like, "Hey, I was driving to my place and I hit this rabbit. Like, you want it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." Like, yes, I'd like. Yes. Then other times too, we've been out, or I've had people message me and ask me. My father-in-law called me up one day, and he's not a hunter, but he called me up and he's like, "Justin, I just hit this deer. Like, what do I do?" And I was like, "Well, is it alive?" And he's like, I don't know. It like ran off over there, whatever. And I was like, well, like if you want to get it, you just gotta like call the highway patrol or the game warden and like ask them if you can take it, and then you could like take it home and take it to a processor or whatever, and they can make the meat for you. And he's like, I don't know, and I can't remember. He never ended up going. I don't know if he couldn't find it or he was on his way somewhere and it was timely or whatever, but it was also in like the opposite. We were on the West Coast and he was on the East Coast in North Carolina. So, but yeah, very interesting perception too, because I think my wife was very upset at the fact that I brought home a rabbit that my friend had ran over. So it was like, it was interesting, the perception of even just that, of just like, no, that's not okay. But and then in some states, you have to get on a waiting list to get access to roadkill.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So there's like a roadkill waiting list. Places like Alaska, or I don't know. There's some other states in the West too that it is illegal to harvest roadkill if it's not coming from this list. So, and there's some states that's not even legal to take roadkill, and then there's some states all you have to do is call like the game warden or Department of Natural Resources or whatever, or the highway patrol, and they can like sign you over the deer, even if it's out, or whatever animal, out of season. So I don't know, we put out an article about it a while back. I'd be curious where we stand with that now. I might do for some updating, because it's interesting to see what states you can and can't, and then if you're a person that lives in that state, maybe it's like next time you're out driving, you see somebody hit a deer, and you're like, "Oh, it's pretty fresh." Like, oh, I'll take that.
Looking for the best deals on center consoles, sport fishing boats, pontoons, kayaks, and skiffs? The Annapolis Powerboat Show is your destination. Join us in downtown Annapolis, Maryland from October 3rd through 6th to explore over 300 boats, all displayed outdoors and in the water. This year's show has something for everyone, including free fishing seminars with industry pros, a kids fishing zone hosted by CCA Maryland, and a massive selection of gear. Plus, don't miss out on boat show exclusive discounts on sound equipment, MFDs, outboards, trolling motors, and more. Make your next great fishing adventure start at the Annapolis Powerboat Show. Get your tickets and all the details at AnnapolisBoatShows.com. That's AnnapolisBoatShows.com.
Looking for the best deals on center consoles, sport fishing boats, pontoons, kayaks, and skiffs? The Annapolis Powerboat Show is your destination. Join us in downtown Annapolis, Maryland from October 3rd through 6th to explore over 300 boats, all displayed outdoors and in the water. This year's show has something for everyone, including free fishing seminars with industry pros, a kids fishing zone hosted by CCA Maryland, and a massive selection of gear. Plus, don't miss out on boat show exclusive discounts on sound equipment, MFDs, outboards, trolling motors, and more. Make your next great fishing adventure start at the Annapolis Boat Show. Get your tickets and all the details at AnnapolisBoatShows.com. Again, that's AnnapolisBoatShows.com.
All right, let's transition to fish. I'm trying to think. Fish. What would categorize as odd, wild, unusual fish?
I had a pike liver once.
Pike liver?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is unusual.
I was reading about it, and apparently it's not something you want to eat too often, if at all, because of buildups of potentially harmful minerals and stuff in the liver and toxins. Yeah. But I wanted to try it. So I tried the one. It was off like I don't know if it was like 6 pound, 8 pound pike or something like that. But yeah, I just kind of like cooked it simply and then made a spread, kind of like a liver spread on toast. And it was pretty good. It was a little fishy, like a little fishier than normal liver. Not something that I would want to eat all the time, but not bad either. You know, it's something that was like, I want to say edible, not great, not bad.
Edible, not great, not bad. Okay.
Yeah. But because of the toxicity or potential toxicity, I wouldn't recommend eating them often, or do your research if you're going to do so. Yeah, it was something I wanted to give a shot, and I'm glad I did.
Heidi, any unusual fish?
Definitely. So I grew up on the Jersey Shore, and striped bass, striper fishing is kind of like the big sport out there. Fluke, flounder, things like that, black sea bass. So one of the fish that's widely considered like a trash fish is bluefish, and they're very abundant.
Yeah, I like bluefish.
Yeah, and like unfortunately, it's a common practice that a lot of fishermen will, if they catch them, since they eat your bait and they're considered undesirable, they'll just throw them on the beach to die and let them rot, you know, for beachgoers and beachcombers to find. And I just never thought that was really cool. And then I was like, well, how bad could it really be? And one day, my stepfather, who's an avid kayak fisherman, he gave my partner and I a bluefish. And it wasn't super big. I don't remember, didn't weigh it or anything, but I just cleaned it and filleted it. And the first thing that struck me was that its like meat was actually kind of bluish color. But let me tell you, I cooked it. I did like mayonnaise, lemon juice, and like onions, and I cooked it, like baked it, and like kind of ate it like with like tortilla chips, like nachos almost. It was so good. I had to stop myself from eating it all till my partner got home. And then we did a similar preparation where we like covered it with mayonnaise and onions and like lemon and grilled it in like a foil packet. And it was delicious. And I read that there's something in the mayonnaise that neutralizes like the compound that gives it that like oily, fishy kind of flavor. But we just thought it was so good. So would 1,000% eat them again. Maybe if they're not like huge because they get big, but would definitely eat that again.
Interesting. I was just looking up what a bluefish is. Not like is in detail, but like the details of like the flavor profile and all that stuff. And Yeah, it's like all over the world.
I was on a charter once in Florida, like a fishing charter, and there was bluefish jumping everywhere. I was like, well, let's catch some of these things. Like, no, don't. And then I was just want to be like, no, do you know who I am? I eat everything. Let me catch one of those, but they never wanted to stop. So I never got to try it. But I had a strong feeling that you could make them just as tasty as any other fish.
I caught a similar situation in Florida. We were out fishing and we were catching these tunny fish. They're like false albacore, I think they call them, but I think they're more closely related to like the mackerel family than the tuna family. Somebody's going to correct me, and that's okay. Not tunny. It's funny because you type in tunny and you get tuna, but like it's like called like a little tunny. But then there's bonita and bonito, and there's like some different flavors. But as far as like the flavor profile is slightly different, and one ends up being like very heavily, it's got a lot of like, I don't know, for lack of a better word, like redness in the meat. And so it carries a very strong, like briny, salty flavor that a lot of people don't care for. So therefore they kind of disregard it. But I found several ways. Like I took a bunch of it home because we caught a bunch of it, and they were just what the boat was going to do was use it for bait for other fish, even though we caught it, and we were like, no. I was like, I want to take some of it, and like I'll try to cook it different ways. And so I did. I'd end up like I would like brine it or soak it to kind of get some of the blood out of it. Similar, because they weren't like cutting them and bleeding them on the deck, so that's something you should always do with fish, and as I've learned of late. So they weren't doing those things, and so I took like other precautions to kind of get some of the blood out of the meat. It sounds so weird to say that. But that was weird. So also too, when I was living in the Keys, barracuda, because barracuda can carry ciguatera, which ciguatera is pretty nasty toxin that comes from an algae. And it can be fatal on the worst end, but then it can be slightly mild and like not great. But the bigger the barracuda, the general chance that there's a presence of ciguatera there. So you kind of want to aim for like a certain size, like anything over like 18 inches is probably out. But the meat's phenomenal, super tasty. I akin it to like pike and muskie and like all those big like ferocious fish.
Yeah.
Also, I always wanted to Euro mount a barracuda skull, just because I thought it was the wildest thing, because they've just got so many teeth and they just look so ominous. But the meat was good. I did not get ciguatera or have a fish poisoning, which was good, but there's always the chance. It's funny because we used to hang out with some folks, and one of the guys was like, hey, this old Cuban man told me 2 ways to tell if barracuda have ciguatera. And I was like, tell me. He's like, like stray cats, right? Just kind of around. He's like, you just flick a piece of fish to the stray cat, and if the cat doesn't eat it, it's got ciguatera. If the cat eats it, or if it doesn't eat it, it has ciguatera. If it does eat it, then you're good to go, and you can eat the rest of the fish. It's like you can also do the same thing with ants. Like find a pile of ants, wherever, stir them up, throw the meat in there, and he goes, if they like swarm it, it's good. If they don't, they'll just hover around it and won't go into it to bite it. And I was like, no way, no way. I don't know. It seems
cool.
I don't know. It seems legit. I like to base my health on the opinions of cats and ants.
Hey everyone, this is Captain Steve Roger from Into the Blue TV. And as soon as I feel a little break from this heat, I know that hunting season is upon us. Actually, the first time I ever went hunting, a buddy took me. Wasn't my father or my grandfather. In fact, I took my father on his very first hunt. Well, Academy Sports and Outdoor Stores has everything to gear up for the field for less. Plus, You can shop a wide selection of ammo, shotguns, deer corn, rifle, feeder, game cameras, camo, and more from the brands you trust. Text HUNT24 to 22369 to take $20 off a $100 purchase when you shop hunting supplies at academy.com. Need a hunting license? Pick it up in store while you're shopping.
I don't know, anything else, Heidi? Any other? Bluefish is good.
Bluefish is really good. I would love to try sea robin, which is considered another trash fish.
Oh, I gotta look that one up. Go for it. Go for it.
Yeah, I can't really think of fish-wise.
Whoa.
There's a lot of really cool, unusual fish in New Jersey that I have caught or seen but haven't eaten because there's like a big kind of like hurdle. There's so many people I feel like fish especially gets a bad rap.
Yeah.
Like the whole idea of like trash fish, like the whole fish. Like people might be like, oh, they might think it's weird to eat like rodents or to eat like a groundhog or a raccoon or a possum. But they're like, oh, but this is good. Like beaver tail is good. Like most people have heard of that, but I just feel like people don't give fish enough of a chance.
That's true.
Yeah.
Even in my neck of the woods, even something as innocuous as like bluegill or sunfish, a lot of people turn their nose up, or catfish, just certain things that like are very popular elsewhere. I know like a buddy of mine did some commercial fishing out of the Great Lakes, and they caught bluegill by the thousands and sold them all to California for bluegill sandwiches. And people in my neck of the woods generally, like the odd one who knows what's up, will eat them, but most people are like, really, you eat those things? So
Man, I love bluegill.
Yeah, one person's trash is another's treasure in that sense. Like they're such good fish. There's nothing bad about them, but just there's a general thought, but from the community, that it's no good. And I'm not sure where those things kind of start.
Yeah, I think too. Another one that I've consumed that I think people are very weary of and mysterious. They think of it very mysteriously. Lionfish. Which I think is like one of the most tasty fish out there. You just got to get past the fact that it's got like, I think like 7 venomous spines on it. Like they're not poisonous, they're venomous, so they won't kill you, but they'll make you not great.
It's like a scorpion sting kind of?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's relatively the same, because like one way to treat it is like you get warm water and treat the wound with warm water, and like whatever, I think it's the proteins or whatever it is that in the venom that reacts, the hot water will dissipate it.
Just have approached anything stings me in the ocean, I just piss on it.
Yeah, that's it too.
Do, right?
You can just pee on it. Go ahead. Just don't eat jellyfish.
Yeah,
I don't think that would be good. No, the lionfish is great, man. All you do is you just trim the spines off, like with a pair of shears, and you're like good to go. And you can just treat it like a regular fish once it's all done. I think it's funny because the first time I ever caught it, I didn't really know which fins, because it's got a bunch of like fins, but only some of them have the barbs in them and some don't, and I didn't know which ones, so I just cut all the fins off this fish. Yeah. And it's this little like finless fish laying on my cutting board. Yeah, whatever.
Were you just spearing those guys, or were you catching them by line too?
No, so you can't catch them by line, so you have to spear them.
You have to spear.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, lots of cool things. I think there's been a lot of tests of like trying to open up a commercial fishery, and they're trying to figure out ways to line catch them, but it's not like you would think of like a traditional sense, and they're very like, I think they tend to eat like live things, and they're very peculiar fish in general. Terribly invasive, so we should eat more of them. Eat more lionfish; they're tasty. All right, let's switch over. We're coming up on time, and I want to get through at least like forageables and maybe like some random things we can talk about. So I don't know. I don't have a lot of forageables in my repertoire of odd things that I've eaten. I've definitely pulled off the side of the road and like picked things frequently, or I'll ask people to pull over, and those are really odd sometimes. But I can't think of like specific things where people would be like, "Ooh."
It's mostly mushrooms. I guess, I don't know do you know what goldenrod is? There's like fields of like kind of tall, almost grass like golden flowers that come up in late summer, and often there'll be like an insect that will lay an egg in the stalk, so it'll grow like a round like ping pong size kind of round growth in the middle of the stalk. If you cut those open, there's like little grubs in there. And I use that as a trick when I used to do like foraging talks and whatever for kids. But I always grab one and cut it open and eat the grub in front of the kids to get a squeals and everything going. Yeah, tiny little ones, but they kind of taste a little like anise or like licorice. They're pretty good. Huh. But they're so tiny. It's not an actual food thing. It's more just for grossing out little kids. But
well, I mean, if you were in a pinch and you needed to eat,
it is something a little bit. Yeah. Otherwise, it's just mushrooms. Can I show you off my mushroom haul from this morning?
Yeah.
People listening can't see, but I got like 20 pounds of mushrooms here that I picked this morning.
Holy smokes!
Like just so much, all lobster mushrooms, and just in the full glory of fall mushroom.
I'm happy when I go out and I find like a mushroom.
That's usually my luck too.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Adam's I
got
20 pounds, no big deal. It's just
10
morning while I was sipping my coffee.
10 pounds of lobster mushrooms.
Get out of here.
I worked hard for them, but
walking around.
Yeah, just walking around. I'm scaling cliffs and falling down mudslides.
The great Canadian wilderness.
Trees, yeah. But I end up with lobster mushrooms, shrimp of the woods, oyster mushrooms, and bear's head tooth, which often gets used as crab cakes. So I've got all these like seafood mushrooms, so I was gonna make like a seafood chowder with no seafood in it.
Oh, that's cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool. All right, I'll give you that. All right, you've exonerated yourself.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, Heidi, any odd forageables?
On the subject of mushrooms, they're very intimidating to me, and they still are. But when I first moved to Virginia, I remember it was like early turkey. It was like March or April, maybe, like turkey season. And I found a mushroom that was like this, like fairly bright, but like pale blue. And I was like, this has got to be poisonous. And I was like, there's no way something that looks like this would be edible. And it reminded me of like, I think it was George Carlin did a bit about where is the blue food. And I was like, I don't know, that just struck me. So I didn't have like Seek or iNaturalist at the time. So I just took some of it home and wound up identifying it as indigo milk cap, which is edible. Yeah, and I fried it up and ate it. Yeah, and I heard at least around here is fairly rare. So for me, that was super surprising that something with such an appearance would actually be edible, and that was pretty cool. And
it shouldn't be edible, judging by the look of it.
Yeah, I was like, wow, that's really wild. And I don't think I've seen any since. I think wood ear mushroom is pretty different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like it. I've seen it around, and we had a log that just sprouted it in the yard, like a cut log, just kind of showed up. But I would say this isn't unusual in itself, but just talk about things you grew up around and never really considered are
there
edible.
It is. Ah, it turns blue.
Is, yeah. It has like almost like a latex in it, right?
Yeah.
That comes out.
There's orange ones too, like saffron milk caps or like neon orange.
That's super cool. Definitely envious of your haul there. But
yeah,
no,
thanks for rubbing it in, Adam.
Yeah.
I just think it's crazy that there's trees that I've grown up, they've been around me my whole life, that you can like eat the leaves. Like I love like new like sassafras little shoots and leaves. They taste like Fruit Loops.
That's cool.
Yeah, there was a foraging book. Was it Sam Thayer? I have it behind me here. Yeah, Sam Thayer. He says they taste like lemon Fruit Loops, and that was like, pretty accurate. So apparently, like maple, there's like a lot of like little young leaves that you can just like eat them.
Basswood's really good.
So like it never really occurred to me. It was, even when I lived in an urban area, like everybody's around these trees pretty much in North America, and yeah, there's edible parts to that, and I thought that was really cool.
Spruce tips were a big surprise to you. Like you always hear about them, but until you're like, oh, spruce tips, and then too, like being back on the East Coast, black walnut, like everywhere. Like like my running, the way I go running out of my neighborhood, like down this hill, there's like just tons of black walnut trees, and they're like, I'm dodging them right now. I should go out and collect some tomorrow.
Yeah.
You should hear when they fall on the roof of your car.
Oh yeah.
When you're not expecting it.
So one thing I looked up the other day that I was thinking about, I have this giant magnolia tree, probably 200-year-old magnolia trees. Maybe not 200. It's probably been here since the house has been here, since probably like 1920. So 100-year-old magnolia tree. It's massive. And the squirrels go crazy for them, and my dog goes crazy for them. So inside the like magnolia pod, the seed pod, are the red seeds. And I had to look it up because I was like, are these edible? There's so many. They like fall in my yard. I watch them hit the car, like all this other stuff. And turns out they're not edible for humans. At least in most of the literature I found.
The flower petals are, though.
Well, yeah, but it hasn't flowered.
Oh, no? Oh.
Flowers. I think it flowers in the
early spring, I think.
Early
because you missed it. No,
yeah, we missed it. But man, all on, we'll be eating some magnolia flower petals.
Yeah.
And then, Adam, this one's for you. In my neighbor's yard, right at my fence, a giant pokeweed plant came up.
Oh, nice.
So I'll get some pokeweed, which is another thing. That's another wild one that people don't think about because it can kill you.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it can kill you. It can make you really sick. But if you treat it right, it treats you right.
I think for me, like all my foraging, people just think generally it's crazy. Like, not the specific things I'm eating, but the fact that I go out to the woods to supplement my diet is crazy in itself.
Yeah. You're wild, man.
But it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be crazy. It's what we all did forever. And people eat a lot of things that aren't that far off from what we're collecting outside. But it's funny that these, like going to collect your own wild food is in itself crazy to a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes, even too, like, you start getting off the spectrum. We've talked a lot about it over the last, 3 weeks. I think you get to different spectrums of fish, both, trash fish and then also, too, different types of game. Give people just, they're like, meh, I don't know. I'm good.
Yeah.
So, I think it goes back to Sean Sherman's point of, we got to get out of this notion that we have to go to the grocery store to buy food.
Yeah.
That's probably my favorite quote. If he's never been quoted for that, he should be. Because that's such an amazing quote when you think about the world of wild food. Of the difference between someone who loves wild food and someone who just eats is the fact that barrier right there of wait, you don't go to the grocery store to get it? No, I don't have to. It's there. It's everywhere.
For free?
Yeah. It's for free. As long as you can access it legally, it's yours.
Yep.
Which, that's another rabbit hole we can get down of what. But, yes, so let's think about it. Quickly, we'll go through maybe just a couple minutes. Things that have eaten that could kill you, weird domestic meats, random veggies, or food from travels. Any of those. I'll go first. I've got one. So Peru, guinea pig, cuy is what they call it down there. I went down there for work with a bunch of folks, and I'm still remembered to this day the guy that ordered and ate guinea pig at a very official dinner, which is great. It was so good. It tasted like rabbit, but it's guinea pig, and in Peru, it's not thought of any different. It's just consumed. Sorry for those folks out there that have pet guinea pigs. My daughter asked me one day, she's like, we have a guinea pig, can we get a guinea pig? And I was like, only if I can eat it after we're done with it.
After we're done with it.
She's like, no.
Yeah, several friends with pet rabbits. I always feel bad about posting rabbit meals, but I do it anyways.
Yeah. Well, here's another one too, and this I saw it somewhere the other day, and I was thinking very much about it. I've never made it, but it's something that in watching it made me a little uncomfortable, and then I was like, the fact that it makes me uncomfortable, I should try it so I can just get rid of that. But garum, fermented meat.
Yeah. I've been really wanted to make some.
It's not just hey, it's dried and cured. It's lacto fermented. No, it's
putrefied.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I made my own fish sauce once. So I'm halfway there. So I'd like to do garum. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still very much on the edge. I'm like, I mean, I don't know. If I could eat fish sauce, I really enjoy fish sauce.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite ingredients.
I wonder how long. Man, I'm going to have to go on a rabbit hole on this.
Yeah. Takes a while. Could take up to a year or two.
70 days. I was looking at Alan Burgo's The Forager's Chef. He's got a good article on it. Man, that guy's got articles on everything.
Yeah, he's a great guy to follow. I'm trying to think of any vegetables. I don't know if I've eaten most vegetables. Any vegetable I can get my hands on.
Yeah, I feel like I never jackfruit. Is it everybody?
Yeah, that's good. Durian is like a big one.
That's the same.
Actually,
right?
one thing is acorns. So last year,
I like acorns.
I harvested acorns, and unfortunately, I didn't get to harvest a squirrel. I was hoping to do a squirrel and acorn dish. So apparently, once you dry them, you can hold on to them for several years. These acorns. So I'm out again this year looking for squirrel, and we'll hopefully do some sort of like. I want to do some sort of like pulled squirrel on acorn grits kind of dish. That's been kicking around in my head for a while.
Oh yeah.
So that's kind of cool. But there's several stages you have to pass them through, including like drying and then cracking them and then leaching them and stuff before they're edible. So there's like it's a process. You can't just like eat them.
I've done it. The leaching is like very time consuming.
Yeah. So that's kind of cool.
Have you ever had corn smut? Either one of you?
Yes.
I would love to try it.
Huitlacoche? How do you say that? Huitlacoche? Yeah, it's like a corn mushroom. Yeah.
Corn smut, yeah.
Yeah, that's actually...
The Mexican truffle.
Looks horrible. It's a weird bluish gray color. Yeah. It looks like it's not food, but it's quite tasty. Actually, I had that in Oaxaca. And another thing I had in Oaxaca, which fits well in this conversation, is chapalinas.
Yeah!
And those are like fried grasshoppers, tossed in like a chili spice. And I have a buddy who grew up in Oaxaca, and he said when he was young, him and his grandma would go and collect the grasshoppers by hand, but now they farm them. So any chapalinas you end up buying are probably farmed grasshoppers. But he said, like as usual, the wild ones always tasted a lot better for some reason or another, probably what they were eating. So. And that was like I just got a bag and then I was eating them and I'm like, yeah, they're good. Like they're kind of like chips, like a crispy, crunchy snack full of chili and salt. I'm like, there's nothing wrong. But then I went to a place and they were selling tortas, which are like Mexican sandwiches.
Oh, with them?
And it was like a chapalina torta. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll try that out. And I was like,
different.
Yeah, and for some reason that really changed my perspective on it. I was like, eating them like out of a bag, like chips is fine. But I was gonna go eat my sandwich, and there was like a leg, like a grasshopper leg, sticking out the side. It looked like it was a cockroach leg or something. I was like, "Oh, this is suddenly not appetizing anymore."
Yeah,
I ate it still, but it was like I didn't enjoy it as much as the just bag of them.
There's a restaurant by my house. It does. They have them on the menu for tacos.
Oh, really? Oh, cool.
Yeah. And then when Adam Steele and I were up in Minnesota, went to Sean Sherman's restaurant. Up there and they had a dish. It was chapalina with roasted pepitas and popcorn. Ooh, and so like everything's crunchy and like chili. Crunchy. So man, they were so good though.
Yeah,
they were so good. I think that's. Yeah, I'm trying to think of other like weird vegetables. I don't know, Heidi, you got anything?
I don't really like vegetable-wise, but I guess it fits into the Oaxacan conversation. I had a roommate from Oaxaca, and he talked about those grasshoppers. I haven't tried them, but in terms of travel, I love tacos, especially like street-style tacos, and I make a point to try the most interesting, hard-to-find thing that they have. So I love tacos de lengua with tongue, the cabeza, which is like the whole stewed beef head.
Yeah. Tripas.
My favorite. Yeah, it's so good. Tripas. That one's okay. My favorite one that I've had though is buche, and that's pork stomach. And it's like they cut it up into really small pieces and fry it like really so it's crispy but also chewy. Mm-hmm. It's like I can't really describe it. It's so good. It's kind of like bacon. and I love that. Same with pho. If there's pho with like tendon and tripe and oxtail, and I'll always get that. And I grew up with some Polish relatives, so I do enjoy like any kind of like blood sausage or like kishka with like liver and rice or head cheese. So yeah, that kind of stuff. Cool. Just good snacking food in the wintertime, kind of.
Blood's a good one. That's the one that even my like my wife will eat pretty much anything. She's like the most adventurous here, but blood is like still one of the tricky ones for her. And I think that's the case for a lot of people. But I love it. I've done I haven't done it with wild animals because it's much harder because you end up shooting them. But I've done it with pigs that I've butchered, where I killed and butchered, where I collected the blood and made my own blood sausage and everything from them. It's very, you know what you're doing at the time. It's a very visceral kind of, it's a very visceral process. But I don't know, the blood sausage, like it's super tasty. I really like it, but it's definitely not for everyone, I think.
I was going to say donkey. I've eaten donkey when I was in Italy. Too, yeah. It was kind of normal.
Yeah.
Camel hump.
Oh, the hump? I've tried camel, but never the hump. I really want to try that. It's really fat.
I wanted to, yeah. I searched all over when we were in Morocco. Allegedly, the bazaar had it, but I couldn't find it. And I looked like all evening trying to find a stand. Also, don't speak, don't speak Arabic, the native tongue, Arabic, or my French was not great enough to try to describe what camel hump. I missed that day in college. I don't know. I was looking have you ever had balut?
No, that's one thing I haven't tried. I tend to stray away from things. I'm still not sure if balut is actually enjoyed or eaten for shock value. I'm trying to ascertain that still, because I'm not one to go eat something for shock value, like a scorpion and a sucker or something. Doesn't do anything for me. But chapelinas, eaten by the people, enjoyed, then I'm really all over it. So balut, and for anyone who doesn't know, that's the duck or chicken embryo,
fertilized duck head embryo. Boiled. I think it's not boiled. I don't know. It's fermented.
Yeah,
it says fertilized, but it's fermented.
So you crack open the egg, and there's basically a
half-formed
duck or chicken inside.
Yeah.
I'd be willing to try it, but if it's just for shock value, it's not really my thing.
Yeah, I had a friend that swore by it. He's like, and he was not from Southeast Asia at all, and he's like, it's great, I love it. He's like, you just kind of mix it all up and slurp it, and it's like chicken noodle soup. And I was like, I don't see those two matching, but I'll take your word for it. Yeah. Heidi's instantly regretting joining this conversation.
No, that's one of those things. For that and for some reason, the bird's nest soup that just really got me. Like, I don't want to knock other people's food or yuck anyone's yum, but I would not try balut or the bird's nest soup. And I think I could get to a point to try insects, but it would be a lot of mental kind of work to get through that.
That's fair.
For me.
Yeah, I think things like Adam lost me, the exploding insect. I'm very much like a texture person when it comes to a lot of foods, and I would just lose it. There's a lot of food in the world that is unique. And I think we're just scratching the surface of it, and obviously just scratch the surface of it in sort of the wild food world, which can go anywhere. You could eat anything once.
Yeah.
So,
and you know what? All the crazy things we talked about and tried, I would eat all of them again, every single one of them.
Yeah.
They weren't disgusting. They weren't horrible. I didn't have to pinch my nose to get it down my throat. It's just they might have been, like Heidi said, there might have been some mental hurdles. You might have had to do some mental work to get over your fear of eating it, but once you do, it's fine. And I found that everyone at the pig camp, because we just get to see all these people come through and eat all these things they never even dreamt of eating before, and usually everyone's just happy and good, and they go for a second. So yeah, that's a lesson for everyone out there. It's just because it seems crazy doesn't mean it necessarily actually is. It could very well be tasty. Could be your next favorite food.
It's your last thought, Adam.
Yeah, that counts.
Heidi, do you have a last thought? Anything you wanna say or leave?
I feel like a lot of the foods that we've talked about or that are in the same vein, none of them are actually gross. A lot of them are probably way tastier than people think, but like for me, like balut or insects, for example, maybe they're really delicious. It's just kind of like my own personal thing around it. So I guess my last thought is like have an open mind and open mouth.
Yeah, there you go. I'll just close mine out with kind of the same. I think it said like don't knock it till you tried it. I mean, I try to make my kids try everything twice, even if they don't like it. I'm like, taste it once. You know, your brain is telling you no, but maybe the second time you'll find some like flavor or something that you liked. So try everything twice. I think that was like a Andrew Zimmern philosophy as well, right? Yeah. Which is very timely. But I would say like, just have an open mind, like Heidi said. Have an open mind, be willing to try things, enjoy the food, eat what makes you happy. Don't let what we say or what other people say change your perception of food. If you want to enjoy crickets or exploding worms or, whatever, you do you. But at the end of the day, eat what makes you happy, I think. And thanks, everybody, for listening. We'll put all the show notes, the links to all the random things we talked about in this episode. We hope you enjoyed it. If you got any questions, concerns, comments, hit us up on Harvesting Nature, social media, Intrepid Eater. Heidi, what's your social media?
Right now, I'm at melancholic_bucolic on Instagram. Nice. And writing samples available by request.
There you go. All right. For everything else, I'd say whatever podcast platform you're listening to, punch that 5-star button. Leave us a review. Tell us we're doing right. Or, tell us you don't like gross foods. Thanks, everybody. Good night.